Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to make pathfinding on a tile map in Godot 4.2. I've been struggling with this quite a lot recently and I thought it would be useful to put it in a video. So, in order to get started we first need to have an actual tile map in which we will create our tiles. Okay, this tile map we can initialize with a new tile set, and if we click on the tile set I will set the size to 32 by 32 pixels. And this is exactly how many pixels I have in my tiles here. Now I can go to the tile set and add my terrain tile set here. Okay, now that I've added this tile set, I am going to select this region of the tile set in order to draw the terrain that our characters are going to walk on. So first of all, let's create a terrain set. I'm going to add a new element, and here I'm going to add the element terrain. And in this element, I'm going to select a color that is kind of opposite to this brown because I want it to be visible when I create the auto tiling. And now if I am going to this paint section, I can select terrain and select terrain set 0 and select these regions that I want to use for the terrain generation. Now I'm going to also select the fact that I want to make auto tiling for this terrain, and I'm going to set the auto tiling map here on my terrain. Now I would go more in detail over this, but this is not necessarily a video on auto tiling, but basically what happens is that this tile is going to be drawn if it has something to the right, something below, and something to below and the right. And the same rule applies to all of these. Okay, so now if we try to draw something, we can go to the tile map and we can actually put some ground here. If I want, I can make a big square, and now if I press F5, this is a pretty decent looking area. Okay, maybe I can make it as big as the viewport to cover everything. So let's make it like this. Okay, now if I wanted to make a character that follows, let's say, a target, then I would have to create, first of all, character body 2D, and maybe this could be an enemy which follows us, so I'm going to call this enemy. And of course, to more easily identify it, I'm going to add a child node, which is going to be a sprite 2D. Great. I'm going to add another child node and to make this a collision shape 2D, because we want it to be able to collide. And this collision shape should be something like, I don't know, maybe a circle. Okay, for this sprite, I'm going to use this soldier sprite that I have here, and you can see that we have our enemy. And maybe the collision shape could be a bit larger. Yeah, this is decent looking. Okay, we don't want to move these two anymore, so I'm going to lock them. And now we can take this enemy and put it anywhere on our tile map. Okay, another thing that we would like to have would be a target. So let's make another node. I'm going to create an area 2D. And in the same way, I'm going to add to this area 2D sprite 2D. And additionally add collision shape 2D. Okay, this collision shape, depending on the sprite, let's use maybe the actual icon, the Godot icon, and we have it here. And maybe we can make it smaller. Let's say something like this. And the collision shape could be, let's say, a rectangle. Oh, actually I moved only the sprite, sorry. So let's have the sprite here, and I will also change this collision shape to be a rectangle. And now the sprite, we could make it smaller, something like this, and the collision shape is perfectly on the sprite, so I think it's decent. Again, we don't want to move these anymore, so we are going to lock them, and let's put the target somewhere here. I think this is a good place. And then let's also call it target, more easily identified. Now, in order to add pathfinding to this enemy, we would need to add a new component, which is a navigation agent 2D. And we also need to add a timer, which will help us find out when the navigation path is going to be recalculated. Okay, so I'm going to set for this timer a 0.1 wait time, and I will set it to auto start. And because these two are related to navigation, I'm going to group them inside a 2D node. So let's just have here a node 2D, and under this 2D node, let's put everything, and let's call this navigation. Okay, now we can go to the enemy and create a script. Let's click on that. I think I just want a node default script. I think this is fine. And we have a script which extends the character body 2D, and we want to update the position of our enemy based on where the navigation agent is telling us to go. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, we need to identify the target. So I'm just going to export this. And this is simply going to be node 2D. And we can simply just attach this target immediately to our enemy. So I have assigned the target to the enemy. Now, what else do we need? In order to move, we would like to have maybe some speed and some acceleration. So I will just write here var speed, which is equal to 300, and a var acceleration, which would be equal to something like, I don't know, 5, 7, doesn't really matter. And we want to also have an instance of our navigation agent. So I'm going to write here on ready var navigation agent. And this is going to be a navigation agent 2D, which is going to take, actually, let's just drag and drop here, which is going to take the actual navigation agent 2D. Okay, now we are going to work with the physics process because the navigation agent 2D updates with the physics process. So let's have here physics process of delta. Oops, here there was something bad going on. And we simply need to calculate our direction. So let's just say that we have a var direction, and this would be equal to a vector 2 dot 0 at first. And now we want to calculate where our enemy is going to head to. So the direction is going to be equal to the navigation agent, basically, dot get next path position minus global position. Okay, so what is this? Well, global position is basically the position of our enemy, and get next path position is a function which returns the next position in the generated path by the navigation agent. And by subtracting those, we can find the direction, and we only care about the direction. We don't care about the magnitude of this subtraction. So we are going to say direction equals to direction dot normalized. Okay, so now that we have normalized this, we can simply calculate the velocity. This is going to be velocity equals to velocity dot lerp, and we are going to simply multiply the direction with the speed that we have, and this is going to lerp with a rate given by the acceleration, and we can multiply this by delta to make sure that we are independent of frame rate. Okay, now we can simply move and slide. Okay, now what's next? Well, we said that we are going to use this timer in order to update the position of the target. So let's just link this timer to our enemy. So let's say on timeout, and let's link it to our enemy. And here we want to set the navigation agent target to target global position. So that would be navigation agent target position equals to target global position. Okay, why are we doing this? Well, in order to get a good direction from this get the next path position, the navigation agent needs to know what we are headed to. And this target position is basically telling it that. And if we set this target position to the position of the target that we have attached to the script, then it is going to work simply like that. Okay, but for the script part, this is mostly it. And if we go now into the main scene and start it again, we will see that currently nothing happens. And why does nothing happen? Nothing happens because in order for the navigation agent 2D to work, we need to have an additional node, and this is going to be a navigation region 2D. So having this navigation region, we are basically telling the navigation agent where it is allowed to find paths. So let's define a region. I clicked like this, I can move them if I want. And you see here that we have these two buttons here. We have bake navigation polygon, and this basically created a polygon through which we can go. So I'm going to save this, and now if I press F5, you can see that our node goes, our enemy goes to the target. Well, that is very nice, but what if we wanted to add some obstacles? Well, let's just go back to our tile map, and in the style map, I'm going to add to the tile set these fence tiles. Now, for these fence tiles to be some obstacles, we will have to create a new terrain set here. So basically, I added a new element. Be careful not to add here, because you would add just a new terrain variance inside this first terrain. Be careful to add it outside. Okay, and here we are saying, for example, fence. Okay, and for the fence, I'm going to select some color that is going to be visible while we make our tile mapping, while we make our auto tiling. Okay, now if we go back to Paint, we can select the terrain set number 1 and maybe zoom out and identify these base tiles. And here we select fence. Well, first of all, we want to select everything because everything in this image is going to be part of our fence tile set. And here, maybe let's just quickly create some auto tiling for these fences so that they look pretty good when we are working with them. I say this is enough. And if we want to add these fences on this tile map without breaking effectively the tiles below. So for example, if we want to add something here, you see that the ground goes away. So in order for it to not go away, we would have to create a new layer. And how do we create a new layer? Well, we can just go here down to layers, and we can basically just say add an element. And let's say that the first element was terrain. So here we have basically the ground on which the enemy can walk on. And here we have the fence. Okay, so we have these two layers. And now if we actually want to draw the fence on the fence layer, we can draw it here like this. And we have some fences, some fancy fences. Okay, what's missing from this? Well, if we just start it now, we can see that our enemy can walk through this fence. And we do not want that. We would like our enemy to not be able to move through them. So let's go back to our tile map. And in here, we want to create some collisions. Now, in order to create collisions to a tile map, we have to add a new physics layer. And we can just say here, add element. And let's say that the layers that we are on are objects and enemy. I have named this previously, but you can click on edit layer names and you can add any names to your layers to more easily identify them. Okay, and the actual fences are going to sit on the object layer. So they are going to sit here and they are going to interact with enemy layers. So basically not interact with object layer, but with the enemy layer. Okay. Now we have to do the same thing for the enemy. So if I am taking this enemy, I'm going to look at its collision, and the enemy is going to be on the second layer, on the enemy layer, and it's going to interact with objects. Okay, but on the tile map, we only created the physics layer. We have to also assign this physics layer to our fence tile set. So let's go here, and in our tile set, you see that now under physics, we have physics layer 0 here, and we can assign basically these colliders to all of our elements. I am not going to go pixel perfect to make the colliders fit our sprites, because it does not really serve the purpose of this tutorial, but I think this is good enough. Okay, so now that we have set everything up, our player is going to collide. Now, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that the navigation agent is not able to find our target here. And why is that? The navigation agent is going to navigate wherever this region is set. Then we would need to find a way to basically cut out from this region all the collisions here so that the Pathfinder knows to find another way. Now, how would we do that? Well, in the documentation, it is written that we can do this by setting the collisions on layer 0, because this navigation region 2D, while baking, interacts with elements from layer 0. And additionally, we would have to set this tile map as a child of this navigation region 2D. So let's see how we do that. Well, I'm setting this tile map here as a child, and in order to not cover everything, I'm going to move it back up in the node layout. And now I'm going to go back to this tile map, and we have these layers here. Now, in order to move the layer up, then we would have to press on this button to make it go up. And you see that we have a problem. We moved the fence layer up, but we can no longer see it because it is basically below our terrain layer. But we can easily avoid that by setting the Z index of this terrain to -1. And we can now see these as well. To make the enemy work properly with these collisions, I'm going to also set him as motion mode from grounded to floating. And I'm going to set the minimum slide angle to 0. And with this, our enemy is basically going to slide if it touches any of these colliders. Okay, now if we are going to check how this works, well, currently, if we press F5, you'll see that nothing happens. And why does nothing happen? And maybe let's just see better what happens. Let's enable the debug here, and if we enable it, we can see the path that is generated by this navigation agent. So you can see that the path is straight through this. Now, why does nothing happen? Because we have not baked this region again. And how do we do it? Well, we simply can draw it again or modify these nodes. And now if we press bake, you will see that it has removed these colliders from the actual region. So now the navigation agent is not going to look for these regions to navigate. And if we press F5, our character is going to go around them. And this is going to work with pretty much everything. So basically, if we make sure that we select fence here, and let's just delete them, and we can make any kind of intricate maze. So I don't know, maybe something like this. Yeah, if this would be our tile map, then what we have to do is to make sure that we set this navigation region to cover everything. So let's set it like this. Okay, and we make sure that we bake it again. And you can see that we have a lot of places through which our enemy can pass through. Now, if I press F5 again, It is going to go around. We can also see the debug nodes, and it is going to reach our target. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful to you. Yeah, make sure that you are doing this on the proper version, because the way you can set this up is very different from version to version. On Godot 3.5 it is much different than on Godot 4.2. But if you are on Godot 4.2, then this is the way to do it.